Matthew is in Dover. I've heard, Matthew, and I could be wrong, I've heard that the Dover to Calais crossing is actually quite important in the context of British exports. A chap called Dominic Raab revealed this to me a few weeks ago. Was that a big surprise to you?
Well, he said that. Yeah, I'd imagine it's quite important. It's quite important to us down here.
I'd always presumed it was, but apparently it came as a major surprise to the last but one Brexit secretary. Anyway, that's not why you rang
they did that. At least they did that test in Manston with 10 Lego lorries to see if it would work.
Exactly that, and a bin lorry as well. Don't forget the bin lorry.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm still intrigued to know whether that fellow was just chancing his arm on a day off from the depot, or whether or not it was signed up by the council to boost up the numbers. Anyway, what made you pick up the phone today?
Well, I want to apologise really to everyone that voted to remain, because I voted to leave, and like a lot of people, I'm probably still in the polling booth wondering which way to go and wasn't really sure. And it was people like James Dyson's comments echoing that made me fall that side of the line. And obviously the more it goes on, the more ridiculous my decision to leave appears.
Give me
a chance to change my mind.
Well, I'm glad that you feel that way, but I don't think you need to apologise. I have a horrible feeling that we have been almost gulled into not talking to and about people like you, people who stood in that booth and could quite easily have gone either way, because the only way that you keep the whole Brexit balloon inflated is by pretending that it has been completely ferocious opposition from the very start. And I think we probably fell into the trap on my side of the argument of letting the terms of engagement be defined by the people who knew that their only chance of keeping the balloon inflated was to turn it into a culture war or a fight rather than into an evidence-based examination of the facts. So today, as we examine the facts, you're left asking yourself, why on earth would James Dyson be leaving Britain if Brexit, which is now around the corner, is good for Britain? And I don't think, if you're being honest with yourself, you can answer that question in any way other than the way that you've just done.
Well, I felt, like a lot of people, I felt uncomfortable being given the decision. If I've got two young children, and if I asked them both what they wanted for dinner, one would want lasagna, the other one would want fish and chips. And so I can't please all of them. And I could bring in
but dinner means dinner.
To ask.
Dinner means dinner.
In the middle that pleases both of them. Of course, it would please neither of them.
Well, I don't know. Lasagna and chips.
Yeah, true. But that lasagna and chips is not healthy. So just like the Brexit deal she's offering us, it's just a worse version of fish and chips, isn't it? Lasagna and chips. So, it's poor old Theresa, and I'm not getting at her. She's in the impossible situation. And you know what? I wouldn't have a problem if we actually just got out, because that would please half the people, and if we stay in, it'll please the other half. But this talk, you mentioned it earlier, the will of the people, it just gets annoying when you hear it, because it's only the will of half the people.
It's not even half, because it's half of the people who were represented by Michael Gove, Boris Johnson, Jacob Rees-Mogg and Nigel Farage. And they're fighting like cats in a sack now, most of them. Certainly Gove and Johnson going through different lobbies in response to a bill brought by their own government. So that, as the lad in Swansea proved, to his embarrassment and my regret, it's a joke.
Told you there was cakes behind the door.
Yes.
Boris was going to tell you what, there's lovely cakes behind there. There's a Eclair, there's all your favourites behind there. And then when you opened that door, it turned out there was a bucket of cold sick.
Yes.
I think you'd like an opportunity to maybe reevaluate.
Don't be ridiculous. Don't be ridiculous. We voted to go through that door. It doesn't.
Exactly.
And although we may have voted under the illusion that there was cake on the other side, because the door eaters told us that there was cake on the other side of the door. If it turns out that there's a bucket of cold sick on the other side of the door, you and I both know, Matthew, that the will of the people demands that we live off that bucket of cold sick until the country comes back to its senses.
Exactly. I think that, you talk about democracy and things like that, but we know so much more now, and I don't profess to be an expert in anything, far from it. With economics, but I studied economics at school. I'd listened to your show. I've always watched Question Time, so I had a reasonable grip. But I was still really uncomfortable with being given the decision. I mean, the MPs know far more than we do about these things, the advantages and disadvantages. And obviously there is there is a will amongst the MPs to remain. If we're to believe the stories, it's 70-80% remain to leave.
It would have been lower.
Far more than me.
Yes, of course. And when they all voted to trigger Article 50 on all sides of the House, I think that they were labouring under what history will hopefully come to call the flesh-coloured body stocking paradigm, where they just presumed that if people like James Dyson being a good example, are lining up on the other side, then maybe my understanding is not as deep and complete as I thought it was, because a fellow like that has made 9 billion quid doing business. If he's talking about business, we should listen to him. And on a day like today, unless you're possessed of clear eyes and a clear conscience like Matthew is, you have to somehow start pretending that when Dyson commented upon Brexit's impact on British business, he wasn't talking about his own business. Matthew, mind how you go. Thank you. Are you based in Dover?
Yeah, I feel like I was in a boat with Dyson across the channel.
Yes.
And he told me the boat was fine. He was in there with me, and then he's just said, "I'm going to get out though now, Matthew, because my speedboat's just pulled up. But your boat's fine. Honestly, it is.
Oh,
I said I was going to cross the channel in it, but
yes.
But I'm off. So.
And by the way, my decision to get in the speedboat and sail off to the other side of the world has absolutely nothing to do with the destination of the boat that I tempted you into.
No, you'll
nothing
be fine.
At all.
Yeah,
nothing
you'll be
at all.
fine in your
nothing
boat.
At all.
Yeah.
I love it. I might need you for super ships. I don't know if you're aware that I've set up a small business called Super Ships. We don't actually have any ships, but we're bidding for government business. I don't have many people on the ground in Dover, so I'll give you a buzz if there's any heavy lifting that needs doing. All right?
I'm off to Manston to count the lorries.
Good man. Thank you, Matthew. Give my regards to the dustman.